What's going to happen to the thousands of National Guard troops stationed in the nation's capital? The D.C. mayor has a new announcement. Arizona's largest county is trying to bring peace of mind to any who question the 2020 election. Maricopa County has agreed to conduct a forensic audit of the county's election equipment. The Biden administration is facing backlash for halting gas and oil leasing on federal lands and water. Now, Texas Governor Greg Abbot calling for all state agencies to sue the Biden administration for any federal actions that threaten the state's energy sector. Tune into Deep Dive as we explore these topics and more. Hello and welcome. This is Deep Dive and I'm Tiffany Meier. It's been over a week since a new administration entered office, but there are still questions around the 2020 election. Arizona's largest county board wants to set those fears at rest. The Maricopa County Board of Supervisors has approved a forensic audit of the county's election equipment. Maricopa County in Arizona will carry out a full forensic audit of its voting systems. It's following concerns raised by constituents about the integrity of the November 2020 election. Supervisor Bill Gates said concerns largely feature around the county's tabulation equipment. The board plans to hire 2 independent companies to conduct the audit. It will include a software, hardware, and financial review of voting systems. It'll test whether the machine sent or received information over the internet, and will also check the accuracy of the vote counting equipment. Additionally, a logic and accuracy test of the county's tabulation equipment will be conducted to verify whether ballots were counted accurately and to confirm that no votes were switched. The county government published a list of steps previously taken to ensure election security leading up to and beyond November 3rd. Sellers said the county's elections were administered with integrity throughout 2020. The Republican-dominated board voted unanimously in favor of the audit. The audit is unlikely to satisfy the demands of the Arizona Senate, however, which issued subpoenas to the supervisors in December. The subpoenas demanded they turn over a range of election material, including images of all mail-in ballots and machines used to count votes. That way, the Senate could carry out its own audit. This comes as Democratic lawmakers introduced a bill on Thursday to expand mail-in voting. It's dubbed the Vote at Home Act, and it seeks to massively expand vote-at-home ballot access by enacting automatic voter registration and providing voters with prepaid ballot envelopes. Senator Ron Wyder and Representative Errol Blumenauer introduced the bill. They said in a press release it's meant to, quote, fight voter suppression. They said the introduction of the bill was encouraged by what they described as the successful expansion of voting at home and by mail in the November 2020 election, in which almost 50% of voters cast ballots by mail. That was a record high in federal races. The initiative stands in contrast to a bill introduced by Republicans several weeks ago, which seeks to tighten voter registration verifications and narrow rules for when and how mail-in ballots can be accepted. That's in a bid to strengthen the integrity of federal elections. Recently, Amazon is pushing for in-person voting. The company is trying to block a warehouse union vote by mail in Alabama. 6,000 warehouse workers are set to vote on whether to join the retail, wholesale, and department store union. The U.S. Labor Board is allowing mail-in voting for the election because of the pandemic. Ballots have to be received by late March. But Amazon wants to delay the election so it can take place in person with no votes by mail. It says only about 3% of its workers tested positive for the CCP virus in the first week of January, and it says that doesn't count as an outbreak. Amazon says, we believe that the best approach to a valid, fair, and successful election is one that is conducted manually in person. It seems it's not just voting. There's also concerns about the safety around the Capitol. Ever since the breach on January 6th, security has been ramped up. Thousands of National Guards are staying in D.C. until mid-March, but it seems they won't be there long-term. The mayor announced her intention in a series of tweets on Thursday. She says troops and fences in the capital city will not be permanent. Mayor Muriel Bowser of Washington, D.C. says there are upcoming volatile events that will require extra security. Fences and troops will be needed for such events, but she adds she will not accept extra troops or permanent fences as a long-term fixture. When the time is right, she says, fencing around the White House and the U.S. Capitol will be taken down. She also wants to make sure that proposed security installations will not intrude into local neighborhoods. It is unclear, however, when she thinks is the right time to take them down. The mayor's comments come after the Capitol Police Chief earlier that day said the Capitol building needs a permanent wall. The police chief cited chaos at the Capitol on January 6th as to why she believes permanent fencing is needed to protect Congress members. On the topic of congressional members needing protection, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says lawmakers probably need more funding for security, as the enemy is within the House. It follows a warning by the Homeland Security Department of heightened threats. Pelosi did not name names, but she alleged some members of Congress have threatened violence towards other members and mentioned bringing guns on the floor. Earlier in her press conference, she was asked about newly elected GOP Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene from Georgia. Greene has come under scrutiny this week for online comments she posted before taking office. She made comments demanding Second Amendment rights, among others. Her Facebook page allegedly liked a comment that suggested violence towards Pelosi. Greene, in a Twitter post, said different people have managed her social media pages in the past, and some of those posts do not represent her views. Pelosi has been upping the security around the nation's capital. After the breach, a new metal detector went up in the House chamber. Pelosi said in a statement, anyone refusing to go through can be fined. The first offense results in a $5,000 fine, and the second time would accrue a $10,000 fine. Lawmakers had previously been able to bypass security screening stations at most entrances to the House chamber. As for Representative Greene, she announced recently her Twitter had been temporarily suspended. She said the company claims she made posts that could lead to a risk of violence. She noted in her statement it came just days after Big Tech silenced Trump, adding Twitter has decided to suspend my personal account without explanation. Greene called on Congress to protect free speech on social media platforms. In her statement, saying Americans' rights are being stripped and they aren't being heard by the people they elected to represent them. She said, and with Big Tech silencing them, they literally can't be heard. The censorship has got to stop. Now let's turn to what's happening inside the Capitol. Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell is laying heavy criticism on Biden's swift actions on energy policy. McConnell says stopping work on the Keystone Pipeline will impact 11,000 American workers, including 8,000 union workers. McConnell also criticized actions on climate change, including having the U.S. rejoin the Paris Climate Accord. He says Biden's administration is willfully throwing people out of work, reducing domestic energy security, raising costs and prices for working families, all for no meaningful impact on global temperatures. Axing the deal is undermining the U.S. relationship with Canada. A Canadian leader last week called Biden's decision to halt the completion of the oil pipeline system in Canada a gut punch, adding he was upset the U.S. wouldn't consult with Canada first before acting. McConnell, meanwhile, says China and Russia must be thrilled about this. McConnell also questioned Biden's decision to halt oil and natural gas development on public lands, saying the move instantly cuts domestic oil production by 1/5 and slashes U.S. energy independence. He said in 2019, the U.S. ran an energy surplus for the first time since the 1950s. The Republican senator says that the last 4 years proved something, that growing prosperity, reducing emissions, and expanding domestic energy can all be done at the same time. The Biden administration is already facing a lawsuit over halting oil and gas leasing on federal lands and waters. And now 4 Democratic representatives are also urging the president to reverse course. Texas Democrat Representatives Vicente Gonzalez, Henry Cuellar, Lizzie Panel Fletcher, and Mark Veazey are asking Biden to rescind his new federal energy leasing ban. The lawmakers say his plan would eliminate jobs, reduce economic output, and hurt the economy. And they say it would weaken the U.S. national security. And now Texas Governor Greg Abbot is calling for all state agencies to sue the Biden administration for any federal actions that threaten the Lone Star State's energy sector. On Thursday, Abbott vowed to oppose what he called the Biden administration's bid to destroy jobs with its volley of actions targeting the oil and gas industry. He said Texas is going to protect the oil and gas industry from any type of hostile attack launched from Washington, D.C., and called Biden's embrace of the Green New Deal a job killer in Texas. He added it also takes a wrecking ball to the energy independence that Texas has been able to provide to the United States of America, and Texas is not going to stand idly by and watch the Biden administration kill jobs in Midland, in Odessa, or in any other place across the entire region. Biden's actions have drawn fire from Republicans, industry groups, and even some Democrats. But Special Presidential Envoy for Climate John Kerry said that Biden wants to make sure workers in the energy industry have better choices in jobs that pay better and are cleaner, giving the example of being a solar power technician instead of being a miner. The Republican National Committee chairwoman, meanwhile, says she is changing the organization's focus to exposing the Biden White House and holding Democrats accountable. Ronna McDaniel announced the new focus on Fox News. She says the organization is going to respond to Biden policies in real time. She wants to expose the differences in Biden's actions now versus what he said on the campaign trail. She's using this as a strategy to help Republicans win back the House and Senate in the midterm elections. She believes there is already a case to be made at looking at the record 28 executive orders already signed by Biden just 2 days into his presidency. She points to the multitude of jobs already lost as a result of Biden's policies towards the energy industry. But what do you think? Let me know below. Thanks for tuning in to Deep Dive. I'm Tiffany Meier, and have a wonderful weekend.